Hello, everybody. Welcome to the May 3rd Boise Public Works Commission regular meeting. I am going to call the meeting to order and do attendance. Crispin Gravatt, Jennifer Ellis here, Abigail Morgan, Ellie Cross.
Present.
Jim Wernz,
Present.
Kylene Collette, Larry Crowley,
Here.
and Robin Lockett. Okay, so we have quorum. And first order of business is minutes approval from our regular meeting last month.
Madam Chair, I would move to approve.
Larry, can
Oh.
you turn on your microphone?
Oh, there we go.
Madam Chair, I would move to approve the minutes from our regular meeting of April 5, 2023.
Thank you, Commissioner Crowley. Do I have a second?
I will second.
Thank you, Commissioner Wernz. We have approved the meetings from April 2023. For all of those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. For all of those not in favor, same vote. Figure out how to word. Okay. All right. So it's passed. We have approved the minutes from April 2023. Thank you. Looking at the agenda, the first item we have is fiscal year 2024 budget background. And I believe it is Matt that will be speaking today.
That's correct, Chair.
Okay.
Thank you. And we want to give the wrap-up presentation of our FY24 proposed budget. And with that, I'll turn it over to Matt Millis, our Public Works Enterprise Revenue Manager. Matt?
There we go. Chair Ellis, Commissioner Gravatt, Commissioner Wernz, and Commissioner Cross, pleasure to be here with you this evening to bring to you our fourth and final presentation regarding the creation of our fiscal year 24 budget. Okay, there we go. Looks like slides are working. Okay, so yeah, it's our pleasure to be back here one more time to talk about the concluding components of the 24 fiscal year 24 budget build, where we bring all the pieces that we've talked about previously back together. Just as a quick reminder, back in February, we had sort of an overview of the budget process. In March, we brought back the capital improvement programs. In April, we brought a very detailed review of our O&M budgets. And then today, what we'd like to talk a little bit about is when we combine our capital O&M, what rate recommendations would provide us with the best fund balance and other metrics that we're trying to achieve within each one of our funds in Public Works. So what we'd like to do is talk about what I'd like to do is really quickly kind of go through the information that we've already discussed without a lot of detail. Certainly, if there's questions, please let me know if you have some specific questions. But what I'd like to really do is focus more on, again, our rate recommendations and ending fund balances. So as we talk tonight, we will be having a lot of discussions on future projections. I'd just like to remind the commission that we are only really focused on the fiscal year 24 figures. Those are the figures that we're looking for ultimately a recommendation from you all as a commission to then take these budget numbers, findings, and projections to the city council to start the process towards budget hearings and potentially a final adoption in August. So if you have any questions, please let me know, but I will start moving quickly through a lot of the information that we've already kind of discussed so that we have time to discuss the new components of the presentation. So with that, here again is just a kind of where we're at here in May. We are looking for a motion at the end, and we'll have that ready to have you either approve or not. There we go. So as we have looked forward into our forecast for fiscal year 2024, we have assumed rates of inflation. We've assumed cost escalation following generally our public works policy on escalation for labor costs, medical benefit costs, and other expenses, and general operational inflation. Our typical rate of inflation is 1.15%, with the exception of times where we have deferred to our division heads for their input on things that are more costed according to the market, things such as chemicals, power, gas, and things such as that. So although we try to initially start with a 1.15% O&M expense increase, we've settled at about a 5% increase as we look at all those components from division heads as well as the base increases. So I'll go through. Oh, sir.
Excuse me, Matt,
Yeah.
Before you move on from that, your previous slide,
Yes.
this is something we see every year in terms of essential assumptions that are typically used by the department in preparing your budget. I was wondering if you kind of validate these numbers from the prior year to actual experience to see whether or not these assumptions in fact are pretty close into what you end up with.
Yes. Chair Ellis, Commissioner Crowley, thank you for the question. We do look carefully as we go through a year and look at what inflationary trends we've actually experienced. We've looked in the past as well as far as what some of our real true rates of increase have been. We do expect that some of our projected budgets moving forward will reflect past trends. But what we typically will do is start with the 1.15 as we set up a base budget for our division heads to review. And what that does is, even though perhaps it may be slightly lower than the average overall rate of inflation, it gives the division heads a little bit of an opportunity to see if there's areas that they could maybe potentially continue to refine costs and reduce costs to try to achieve that 1.15% O&M increase. Again, there are some, like the prices of chemicals, that we absolutely would not be able to achieve the 1.15% increase, but we try to start with as low of a base budget as possible. And our division heads have been quite creative and also responsible in reducing their expenses to match a lower inflation rate.
Just as a follow-up, excuse me, Matt, the labor cost number, for example, at 3%, that's just the increase on your current labor force. It does not include the cost for new people or new staff. Is that correct?
Chair Ellis, Commissioner Crowley, that is exactly right. That is the cost that we have for a current FTE. And as we'll discuss a little bit later in the presentation, we do have new FTE costs that would be added from new individuals that are in addition to that 3%. Thank you. Okay, so I'm just going to start quickly with our different funds, our 4 funds that we have within Public Works that are our enterprise funds, starting with water renewal, which is the largest. Enterprise funds reflect that a fund's expenses are covered by the revenues generated by that own fund for the services provided, which in the case of water renewal would be the monthly user rates that we charge to our customers for water renewal, that then goes on to support our 2 water renewal treatment facilities, our 20 Mile South farm, our phosphorus removal facility, and so forth. So just to quickly recap, we talked about in great detail our capital projections for water renewal back in March. And overall, the total capital improvements for 2024 for major CIP improvements or capital improvement projects, plus major repair and maintenance projects, totals about $53 million. And that's summarized on this slide by our individual programs and into the second slide as well. Part of that 53 million would also be the purchase of $5 million total of utility billing software that would be split 50-50 between water renewal as well as the solid waste fund. As we prepared our budget in March for capital improvements, not only did we look at just our 2024 capital improvement plan, but we also looked at the next 10 years. And that helps us to be able to appropriately plan for and use the different financial tools that we have available to ensure that our rate increases for our customers are as predictable, stable, and level as possible. So as we looked at our capital improvements, you can see this table, which totals in total about just a little bit over $1 billion in future value. And that's our cost estimates for today with future cost inflation planned into it. So what our expectation is that we would spend these amounts in the years in which they are planned for. So what you'd notice also is that it's not a level annual amount each year. We do have a little bit of a spike that occurs in 2027 at about $138 million. That initial spike up front is to help us meet some of our regulatory requirement and capacity projects. And then once those projects are met, we can kind of normalize a little bit more with lower annual capital investment. And as we look at the rate trajectory, our rate projections, you'll kind of see a little bit of that initial bump in those upfront initial years. So in the end, as you can see in the solid green line, we're estimating about a $94 million annual capital spend. So this table is where we start to come into some more information, some newer information. In April last month, we brought back to you the figures that are shown in the expense section that total the $72.4 million that cover the personnel expenses, maintenance and operations, as well as depreciation. What we have recommended, and we'll talk a little bit in just a moment, is a 9.9% rate increase for overall water renewal revenues. And that brings our rate revenues as well as other M&O revenues, maintenance and operations type revenues, which would include things like the services, inspection fees, penalties, things like that, billing expenses, to about $79.4 million. So that leaves us with a net income of $6.9 million. And of that amount, the remainder would go towards funding major capital equipment, as well as our capital improvement projects.
Excuse me, Matt.
Commissioner Crowley, you have a question? Yeah.
Sorry, thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry. When would the 9.9% increase go into effect, Matt?
Chair Ellis, Commissioner Crowley, that would go into effect on October 1st of 2023. So this slide here shows a little bit of a history of our water renewal maintenance and operation expenses back through 2018. And as you would expect to see, there is kind of a gradual climb in the vertical bars that represent our maintenance and operation expense, depreciation, as well as personnel expenses. The years, 2020, 2021, 22 even were impacted by COVID, where we saw maybe a slight reduction in expenses in 2021. But then as we start moving into the implementation of our water renewal utility plan, we are investing more expenses into the professional services and planning services that we need to be able to build the large capital improvements that we're estimating over the next several years. Also in 22 on, we're also seeing some of the impacts of cost inflation that is driving up our maintenance, personnel, and depreciation expenses. The green line, the dash green line, again, represents the amount of maintenance and operation revenues, rate revenues, and other fees for services and charges that we have received each year. This does not include connection fees, which is the cost, or which is the fees for that we recover from new development as they build and take capacity away from our systems. This is strictly our rate revenues, and as you can see, there is a little gap as we go forward between the vertical columns and the green dash line that is used for capital improvement funding, as well as the maintenance of fund balances within the water renewal fund. So to refer back to the previous question regarding new FTEs, we do have a list of new FTEs that we presented in our last meeting in detail, essentially 15.5 new FTEs totaling about $1.5 million. This would be in addition to the 3% annual increase for just general salaries and wages. We also have 12 FTEs that already exist within the utility that we're requesting be placed onto a higher pay grade because of more responsibilities, more advancement, and also just the desire to continue to retain our employees. So that would be an additional $96,000 that would be added to the cost of those 12 FTEs that already exist within the utility. So then just to quickly summarize, there's 3 key categories that we're trying to meet with our new FTE requests. And that is making sure that we are retaining our current employees, that we're also filling the vacancies, and that we're competing well against other industries, other companies, other potential employers, so that we can bring the people that we need to the water renewal utility. But also, as we're expanding our capital facilities, we also need new, potentially different, maybe even more skilled FTEs to be able to handle and operate the technologies that are being added with our capital improvement plans moving forward.
Now, I have a question. I like the implement stay interviews with retaining existing talent. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Because it sounds like a good idea.
Sure.
I'm assuming what that is.
I can jump in on that one, Matt. Excuse me. Chair Ellis, thank you for the question. So what we've started doing is, instead of, we typically, HR will execute at the end when somebody leaves the organization, we'll do an exit interview. So one of the ideas that HR encouraged us to pursue was to think through, for those high performers, what are the stay interviews? How do you make sure that they're happy with what they're doing? And are there adjustments that you could make to their current workload? Everything from, ergonomics issues. But what could we do to help make sure that you stay within the organization, right? So that's the intent of the stay interview, and try to be proactive rather than, they're thinking about leaving, let's try to scramble and make sure they're happy to try to keep them to stay. Let's be proactive about it.
Thank you.
So now we'll talk just a little bit about our water renewal rate recommendations. From a utility as a whole, what we're intending to do is increase our overall rate revenues by 9.9%, as shown in the top line. We had a cost of service analysis that was completed last year. And in that cost of service analysis, they focused on a 3-year period, 2023, 2024, and 2025. As we received the recommendations from the cost of service analysis, they'd said, our consultants had said, let's go ahead and proceed with the 9.9% overall rate increase, but maybe to match cost of service, we need to rebalance a little bit some of our user classes within the water renewal utility. And so what we have below in the larger table is our different categories of water renewal users, and we have the rate increases that would be focused on those groups for each one of those 3 years until in 2026, all are on the same alignment. All are all on equal ground and paying for their true cost of service. So right now we're in the 2nd year of implementation on this 3-year plan. And as we work through the numbers here, as we continue with the slideshow, I'm going to focus just on the single family and multifamily users, being obviously the largest group of users within the community, and also the most prominent in terms of needing to be.
Madam Chair, question?
Yeah, Commissioner Crowley.
Remember to do that more often. Matt, in addition to the percentages that you're showing, do you also have the absolute revenue numbers by class that we can see to get a sense of where the money is coming from for the overall water renewal?
Chair Ellis, Commissioner Crowley, I do not have that in this presentation, but there are a number of items that we have from the cost of service analysis that does provide that, and we can provide those to you for later review if you'd like.
I would appreciate that. Thanks, Matt.
Okay. So as we move forward in the discussion, we're going to focus just on the residential at the 7.5% rate increase for fiscal year 2024. So at the moment, our fiscal year 2020.
Matt, I'm sorry. I don't know how long the hand has been up, but I just saw Commissioner Wirtz has his hand up.
Oh, apologize.
Thanks, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mike. The question I had was on that last chart on the West Boise Sewer District. And Madam Chair, I had just raised my hand, so you're really on it. But I see the 22.6%. I'm not sure what the user base is in the West Boise Sewer District, but that number just sort of jumped out. Maybe this is something you're going to get to later in the presentation, but that's a pretty significant rate increase. And I'm curious a little bit more background and also knowing whether those are primarily residential users.
Okay. Chair Ellis, Commissioner Wirtz, that very good question. Very notable number there. At this moment, and there's quite a bit of background and kind of lead up to understanding all that goes into West Boise Sewer District. That is included in the information that we can provide to explain. But we will be providing you with that information. Just to answer your question, I will pass the time to Heather Buchanan.
Sorry, Matt, for jumping in. Chair Ellis, Commissioner Wirtz, the West Boise Sewer District is a separate district. We provide service to 3 different sewer districts: Eagle Sewer District, West Boise Sewer District, and Garden City. And so each of the sewer districts have a specific contract that governs how we charge their rates and fees for them. So for the West Boise Sewer District, the percentage change there indicates that for the last few years, we've been undercharging the district. So we need to bring them to full cost of service, just like all of our other users. So we've been negotiating with them. They're fully aware of the percentage increases that will move them to full cost of service. So same with Eagle Sewer District and Garden City. So the 3 districts are aware, and it will just make sure that the customers that are within their district are paying full cost, just like the rest of our City of Boise customers that we charge under the single family and multifamily rates, the unmonitored and monitored commercial. And so for West Boise Sewer District, within that district, the district is up, it's off of Cole out to, I want to say about Maple Grove area, and then down just above the bench from Chinden south towards, I think Fairview, if I remember correctly, somewhere in that general area, encompasses where the mall is and a lot of residential out there. So it's a mixture of customers that are residential and commercial. I think there's about 10,000 roughly customers in the district, if I remember correctly. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Okay. Any other questions on this particular slide and rate recommendations? Okay. So at the moment, for fiscal year 2023, our bill for a typical Boise residential user, which is using 5.93 cubic feet of water as measured by Veolia, which in common terms is more like 4,435 gallons of water in the course of a month. And that would be indoor water, not for outdoor irrigation. In fact, the way that we measure that is we have a wintertime water average where we look at water bills between October to April, I believe. And in that period, there should not be outdoor irrigation going on. So therefore, what Veolia is monitoring is going to be strictly indoor water. So on average, during the wintertime, residences are using about 4,400 gallons of water. So our monthly bill based upon that wintertime water use is $43.46. And so as we propose the 7.5% rate increase for fiscal year 24, that would increase the monthly bills at $3.26, totaling $46.72 for your typical user. Now, clearly, some folks that are using more water are probably going to have a higher bill than this amount. Those that are using less water would have a lower bill. And then one other note is this is the monthly price. When the bill actually shows up at a home, it's for a 2-month amount. So if someone's wondering why their actual bill is twice the amount shown here, it's just simply that we bill on a bi-monthly basis.
Matt, if I can just jump in, Chair Ellis. The rate increase you see here, the 7.5, is in keeping with what was provided in the bond material when the bond election, when we were trying to educate voters on what they were approving. And so this 7.5 and that previous slide that showed the 9.9 total is tracking with what we proposed as part of the bond election. So just wanted to confirm that.
Yep. Okay, thank you. So this slide here compares the Boise water renewal bills for that average typical residential user against other water renewal utilities and entities within the Treasure Valley, as shown in blue, as well as regional providers, which would be Spokane, Portland, and Seattle, shown in the green. And so as we look at the Treasure Valley, the local average is about $38.66. The amount that we charge at this moment, as shown in the crosshatched bluish column, is $43.46, and it's proposed to go to $46.72. So we're a little bit above average within the Treasure Valley. But as we look at the regional providers, we are lower, significantly lower than at least Portland and Seattle.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Crowley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Matt, just an observation. Garden City is one of our customers, as is Eagle,
Mhm.
and their average for residential service is actually lower than ours. Can you explain that?
Sure. Chair Ellis, Commissioner Crowley, that's a very good question. So for Garden City and for Eagle Sewer District, we provide wholesale treatment costs. We do not provide collection facilities. So what you're seeing there is the differential between our cost of collection facilities versus the collection component that Garden City or Eagle Sewer District would be charging.
Then just a further clarification, Chair Ellis and Commissioner Crowley. On the collection system side, our system is relatively speaking much older than those communities. And so as we look at some of the investment we're making in the collection system proper, we have some pretty significant capital investment replacement that we need to get on top of. And so that's also a portion of why that collection side is more expensive for Boise than maybe in Eagle or Garden City.
Yeah, thank you. And that also kind of speaks to maybe one last point. As we look at all these comparable rates, we know what kind of condition the Boise Water Renewal Facility is, and our standards are extremely high. And we work hard to make sure that our facilities are kept up very well, that the repairs and maintenance need to be done, and management of the utility is done very well as in addition. With all these other communities, I mean, we presume that they're also doing a very good job on keeping their facilities up, but we don't know if their standards are the same as ours. Also, we know when we will be changing our rate increases. They may be on the cusp of changing some of their rates as well, which could potentially increase these, but we just haven't been able to document that yet until those changes occur. So, okay. So this slide here focuses on what our future rate recommendations in both a percentage increase as well as a dollar amount per monthly bill would be out through 2028. We saw a little bit of this on the earlier rate recommendation slide, where we saw out through 2025 that we had a 7.5% increase for residential users. But now that we can see, once that 3-year phase period that I discussed from the cost of service analysis is completed in 2025, all users fall to the rate of revenue increase, the percentage increase that needs to be achieved for the entire utility. So through 2025, there may be a 7.5% increase. In 2026 and 27, we would have a 9.25% increase. And then fiscal year 28, it'd fall to a 4.9% increase. And as Steve mentioned earlier, these are all in keeping with the rate recommendations or the rate projections that were promised as the bond election was passed in November of 2021. So you can see a little bit more of an increase in 26 and 27 that corresponds with the capital improvement kind of peak, where we need to be generating the revenues to fund those capital projects. And once those peaks are met, it starts to fall off just a little bit. However, I think what is noteworthy is just as we've mentioned in past presentations and today, we use the tools and resources to plan so that our rate recommendations in terms of dollar amounts are fairly level and steady for our users. And so as you can see on that green dashed line, the amount that we are increasing our monthly bills by is a fairly steady level projection that helps people to plan their budgets better. It gives more confidence in our ability to plan and do our work. Any questions on this slide? Okay. So then we have our cash balances, our cash flow projections, and our cash fund balances. What your graph is seeing here is you're seeing in the green dashed line our fund balance for water renewal utility, which in 2023 had a beginning fund balance of about $80 million. This fund balance is, we maintain this to be able to add to or draw from as needed to be able to keep a nice predictable forecast of user rate, of future user rates. And so as we see volatility or changes in our capital improvements, we see some variation in our green cash balance line. But the important thing to note is when we compare the green against the yellow dash line, we're always above the yellow dash line. The yellow dash line represents the minimum cash balances that we need to maintain to meet our bond covenants and promises that we've made as we've issued our Series 2022 bonds. So our goal is to consistently remain above that dashed line. You do see that maybe we go a little bit above that in 2025 through 2028. That is strictly because we are saving up funds or have funds that will be used further out for additional capital projects. So just as a quick summary on our bond authorization, as you know, in November of 2021, over 80% of the Boise voters approved an authorization of $570 million of bonds to be issued out through fiscal year 2031. So that $570 million of authorization, so far we've issued $343 million of our Series 2022 bonds, as well as the recently closed 23 WIFIA Loan 1, which actually closed in December of last year. We have started spending and drawing from our $80 million of the Series 2022 bond. We have not yet started drawing from the WIFIA loan. We have a upcoming second WIFIA loan of $135 million that will be closed on at some point in the future. And then we also have $90 million of basically kind of uncommitted authorization that we will use in our planning to kind of fill in wherever we may need additional funding. Okay. So that concludes water renewal. Maybe I'll just take a moment and see if there's any questions.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for Matt?
Okay.
Looks like we're good.
Thank you. Well, water renewal is certainly our most information intensive fund. A lot of things going on within water renewal. Solid waste also has a lot of things going on. It's a very, very important essential service for trash, recycling, compost services within Boise. And there's many other programs that the Solid Waste Fund provides. Oops, going the wrong direction. So as we look at our solid waste fund within 2024, we have some key drivers that affect our revenue as well as our expense projections. One of those is a continued volatility in recycled commodity pricing. We also recently in the past have expanded our compost facility, and now the cost of that are hitting our expenses, the cost of additional depreciation and operation of that new compost facility. And then we also have contract increases that we discuss regularly with Republic Services to make sure that they're happy to provide us with their updated costs of labor, vehicles, and all the other costs of services that they provide within Republic Services. And then we work frequently to negotiate and add those additional expenses to our overall solid waste cash and expense projections. We also have in the future, although it's not imminent at this moment, but in the future, we know that we will have an increase on landfill costs within Ada County. And I don't know that we have the final exact amounts, but we know that we'll be adding the cost of disposal, the cost of disposal costs will be increasing as Ada County does their cost of service updates and informs us of their new rates. So in April last month, we brought to you the recommended maintenance and operation expenses of $42.39 million that included personnel expenses, our contract with Republic Services, our disposal costs for the landfill and transfer station, and other maintenance and operation expenses. We'll talk in just a moment about our projected rate increases, but with the rate increases, we would estimate that we would generate in fiscal year 24 approximately $42.9 million. That leaves us with net income of $593,000, of which we will fund one piece of major equipment, which would be a household hazardous waste vehicle for $200,000 from those net incomes. Unlike water renewal, we're not needing as much of a balance to continue on for capital projects, as very little capital expenses incurred because most capital expenses related to things such as vehicles, compost facility, and so forth are already covered within the Republic Services contract. So this graphic here again shows us sort of a history of our maintenance and operation expenses over the past back through 2018. And this covers essentially all our maintenance and operation, including personnel, contract, disposal expenses, and so forth. And so that you can see also over time, we've had a steady increase in overall expenses. And the green dashed line, once again, is what we've collected from solid waste revenues year after year. We have a much tighter margin between the expenses and the revenues collected because we're not needing the net income as you would see on the water renewal graph that's intended for capital improvement funding. With this, all capital improvements again are provided through the contract with the Republic Services, and very little expense is required to be funded through our net income. Occasionally we have some pieces of equipment or some other solid waste compost type related facilities or expenses. So what we're proposing is for fiscal year 2024, a rate increase of 4.9% that would be added to the bills for residential services, as well as commercial trash services. So within solid waste, we have 4 different key lines of waste streams. We have residential, we have commercial trash, commercial recycling, and then also we have temporary commercial roll-offs, which would be the large containers that you'd see and that could be, like, for example, my neighbor just had one as he was re-roofing his house where he put a roll-off in his driveway, and then eventually Republic came and hauled it away to the landfill. So what we're proposing are increases of 4.9% for commercial trash and residential trash, but we're not recommending increases for the commercial temporary roll-offs or for the commercial recycling. Those rate increases would provide about $1.5 million in additional revenues, which would increase our net income to about $593,000 following the proposed, if this 2024 rate increase were to be approved. So our average residential bill at this moment for the services of compost, trash, and recycling is $22.41 per month. So a 4.9% increase would equate to $1.10 addition to that, bringing us to $23.51. So similar to our water renewal graph, we do a cash flow projection and estimation of fund balances for solid waste as well. And so in this graph here, the solid green line represents the actual fund balances that are projected with our rate increases moving forward and projected expenses from 2024 out through 2028. And then the dashed yellow line represents our target. In the water renewal, our target was focused on meeting bond covenants and requirements. In this case, since there are no bonds for solid waste, it's focused on maintaining just a good amount of fund balances that can help to absorb the variability in costs that we see month after month. And that amount is about 30 days of operating expenses on hand in the form of cash. So that would mean that our cash would allow us to operate for 30 days if we were to not collect revenues. And that can be handled, that can be used towards cost increases and cost overruns or unexpected expenses, as well as if we had any shortfalls in revenues or any disruption in our revenue collection. So as you can see here, with our 4.9% increase, we are able to maintain our minimum 30-day cash balance target.
Commissioner Crowley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Matt, I've always been interested in knowing a little bit more about the contract that we have with Republic Services. Of the 4.9% increase that you're recommending, how much of that is related to the contract with the Republic? What are we seeing there in terms of their costs driving our cost structure for solid waste service for our residents?
Chair Ellis, Commissioner Crowley, that's a very good question. The contract with Public Services is a very significant part, over half of our overall fund expenses. In fact, it's almost 2/3 of our fund expenses. So I would say that probably 65% of the changes in our expenses with Republic Services would be felt through our rate increases that we recommend.
Madam Chair, just as a follow-up, Matt, I'm just curious. I noticed the City of Eagles kind of gone through a transition. They're looking at a different service provider for solid waste. They transitioned away from Republic to another company. What kind of oversight and review do you go through to kind of benchmark what it's costing from Republic from perhaps other suppliers? How do we know we're getting the best deal for the people of this of Boise on this? It's a big expense. It's $28 million per year. And I'm assuming that includes a guaranteed return on investment and other costs. So when you add the two pieces together for water renewal, solid waste, the average residential customer is looking at $70 a month with the two added together. And I think that's going to get noticed. I think people are going to have questions. So I'm just wondering what's being done that we can tell people that, that the oversight's very good and we're looking at all options and making sure that we're providing the best service at the lowest possible rate.
Chair Ellis, Commissioner Crowley, the excellent question. I would defer that to Heather, who has much more experience working with Republic than I do.
Thank you, Matt. Chair Ellis, Commissioner Crowley. On an annual basis, we review the expenditure and revenue side of the Republic contract. So they submit to us their financial statement, basically, and what their request is for a reimbursement adjustment. So we look through each of the different lines of business and look at their expenses versus the revenues that they receive from us and other sources. We compare items, for example, in the last few years, we've reviewed their labor costs in particular and looked at their labor costs compared to what we're seeing similarly for our city costs in similar positions and other positions in the area as well, so that we're ensuring that they're paying a fair price to their employees and able to maintain their employees while still providing our customers a good value for what they're paying for. So we do, that's just one example. We go through other areas. We look at recycling commodities with them, maintenance. I think for Republic Services, their overall contract nationwide, the maintenance facility here in Boise is top notch. And I think it's actually their best maintenance facility nationwide. I think that their maintenance manager here in the Boise facility is really sought after across their overall contract nationwide, and provides training across their organization. So, and he does an amazing job as far as keeping the maintenance costs and really as low as possible for our fleet.
Chair Ellis, Commissioner Crowley, I'd throw in also that when Republic has an increase for their reimbursement, we negotiate that. That's not necessarily they just send the number in and we say, okay. There's a lot of scrutiny that goes into that, and we negotiate that number, what we think is a fair number based on what they're providing us. I also emphasizing what Heather shared. I think because Republic Services has such a good operation in Boise, their corporate folks often will look to Boise as a place where they want to try out new things, because there's I think their reputation is that, and certainly their relationship with the city of Boise is that it's a really kind of very well coordinated partnership that's been developed over the last 15, 20 years or longer. And so they'll look to Boise as a market where they want to test new things. So for example, the all electric trash trucks, we're the first city in the Republic territory across the country to have the all electric trash trucks. So I think that's a good example of the partnership that we have with them, but certainly Heather and the team definitely scrutinize closely those costs on an annual basis.
Thanks, Heather. I know you provide great oversight on all that. And I agree the service that we've seen has been excellent from Republic. I think it's just a matter of being able to make the residents comfortable that not only are we providing that oversight and making the good efforts that you're making, but from time to time, maybe looking at competitive bids or some way to benchmark, what we're paying for against what other service providers might be able to charge.
Chair Ellis, Commissioner Crowley, the next time that our contract is anticipated to end with Republic Services in 2028. And when we do that, when the contract does end, this time we do have to go out for bid. And so there will be a competitive process to renew the contract at that time. And we would anticipate the Republic will bid again at that time, but it gives an opportunity for other competitors to come into the market as well. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Heather. So moving forward with the 4.9%, okay, with the 4.9% increase, we've plotted out what we see for other similar entities that provides trash, recycling, compost services. One interesting thing is services for water renewal are pretty common. I mean, they're pretty comparable. They're doing the exact same thing from one entity versus another. However, the services that are provided by different entities for trash, compost, and recycling can be quite different. And what I mean by that is, as we look at Boise, we provide in this rate of $22.41 showing in that kind of blue crosshatch bar. We're showing what the bill would be for compost, residential recycling, and trash services. Not every one of these other Treasure Valley entities shown in blue are providing exactly that same service. So what we feel is that we provide probably the best value of services to our customers. There's a lengthy list that we could provide at some time that kind of compares what actual services are provided by the other entities. But regardless, with our highest level of service that we can provide, we're still, even with the recommended 4.9% increase, below the local average of $23.91. So we're providing a lot of value for not much more cost than the average within, or actually just a little bit less cost than the average within the valley. So Commissioner Crowley, to your point, which you've just made for me, thank you. We have a combined water renewal and solid waste proposed 24 bill of $70.23. I think one of your other questions was perhaps, is there, how do we tell people that this is a fair rate? Maybe, one of the things that we will be embarking on here very shortly, we'll be looking at some affordability guidelines provided by Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, that give metrics on how to judge affordability for water, culinary or potable water, water renewal services or sewer services, as well as trash and garbage services. Those metrics look at basically the financial strength of a community, but then they also look at the financial strength of individual households in the lowest quintile of incomes, the lowest 20% of income. So we're working on that. At the moment, based upon older EPA guidelines, we are within affordability for all of our bills. That's not a real concern for the typical user. We want to focus on those that are in the lower income brackets, but that will be upcoming soon. So with that, I'll shift over to geothermal. So again, our geothermal system is very unique. It's the largest geothermal heating system within the United States, and focused primarily within the downtown area. Not a lot to discuss with geothermal other than we presented back last month that we have approximately $1 million in overall expenses from our personnel, maintenance and operation and depreciation. And then we're projecting to have $830,000 of revenues that would also consider a slight rate increase. So historically, we have not increased rates for geothermal as the prices for natural gas heating have been very, very competitive with our geothermal. We're seeing some cost increases to natural gas that would maybe allow us to raise our rates very slightly to continue to generate more revenues that we need to keep our system up, as well as remaining competitive within our downtown area with entities that are making the decision between geothermal heating and natural gas. So what we have here is we are seeing that the net income in the end is $171,000. Essentially, we have the fund balances that money can be pulled from our existing fund balance to cover this expense, which is really incurred to continue ongoing repairs and maintenance within the utility. So if we look at the history of maintenance and operation expenses within geothermal, it has been a little bit more volatile than what we have seen on solid waste or water renewal. And that is because a variety of factors. One of the biggest one is weather and the temperatures and how cold the wintertime actually is. We see some very large increases in 2019, which was due to a number of pipe breaks and other maintenance expenses that had to be incurred during I believe I would say it was a very cold winter, I think, that contributed to a lot of those line breaks and increased those costs. You'll notice that the green line kind of wavers a little bit. It's not as linear and predictable as what you saw in the other funds. And that is because revenues will increase on a colder winter, but they'll decrease on a warmer winter. Also, just the difference in the margin between the overall vertical bars showing the expenses and the green line showing revenues has been made up not only from the use of fund balances in a year where we have fund balances, but we've also had good partnerships with Capital City Development Corporation, Ada County Highways, and others who have helped us and assisted us on roadway just on the kind of teamed up with us on some of our major geothermal projects that we have done. So what we're proposing for our geothermal rates is a 4.9% increase. Again, a rate increase has not been done for a number of years on geothermal. And so what that would do is provide about $37,000 of additional rate revenues that would help reduce the amount of draw that we would have to make on our fund balance to fund our maintenance and operation, or operation of maintenance and operation projects. So this graph again shows our cash flow projections and our fund balances. You can see that in the green line that in 23 and 24, we are well above our target shown in the yellow dashed line. Our target is fixed by looking at 60 days of operational expense on hand in cash, plus an additional $100,000 for the potential line breakages that we could see throughout the year. So at the moment, we are above. However, that margin, that difference between the yellow and the green line is highly dependent upon our future capital improvements. We know that we have quite a few capital improvements that need to be completed that have not yet been fully forecasted into our projections. So it will be very easy to bring that green line down as we add capital projects to come closer to the yellow dashed line. Any questions on geothermal? Okay. Seeing none. Okay, so our smallest enterprise fund is the Municipal Irrigation Fund. And I believe I only have one slide for this. We are not recommending any rate increases. So both the revenues and expenses are very close, or essentially the same as what we showed you last month in April, where we are estimating $57,922 in revenues from the assessments and fees to our irrigation customers. We would expect about $45,000 in operational expenses, and then would have $12,627 that would then be added towards our fund balance. Again, this is a situation where we would add to our fund balance, and maybe at some point when we have some major repairs and maintenance, we can draw back from that to make those repairs without having increases in our assessments. So now I'll talk briefly about the general fund. So the general fund, we're not talking about enterprise funds now. And general fund, as we talk a little bit about this, is subject to the rate revenues that we collect, as well as for the services that the general fund provides, as well as intergovernmental revenues, which are revenues that we collect from property tax, sales tax, franchise fees, liquor taxes, and so forth. So we have a few initiatives and programs that we operate within the general fund. One of those, the first is primarily the FSO, the Facility Services and Operations Group, which maintains key city facilities, basically operates the facilities in terms of keeping repair and maintenance done, janitorial contracts, landscaping contracts, so on and so forth, directed and managed. We also have our lighting services, street lights, and then a variety of environmental services such as climate action, our water supply, stormwater drainage maintenance, and then also inspection services for development, particularly inspecting drainage, hillside, and other development services. So just to recap our discussion from March, we have approximately $1.6 million in capital expenses for the capital fund. That would be primarily focused on FSO, but then another $310,000 to help replace and maintain and inspect poles within the street lighting fund. For budget requests for the general fund, Fund 101, we are requesting 1 FTE. That would be the building automation systems technician for an additional $98,000 in personnel expense. And then also we have some maintenance and operation expenses that that are pending approval by the city council that have been requested. And that's a variety of services that we need to ensure that the different services provided by the general fund are properly funded and they have adequate budget to do the things that they need to do. So pending, we have $765,000 future requests that the city council will hopefully approve. So our net income for the general fund is largely what we presented last month as we focused on M&O expense. We're expecting about $1.1 million in fee revenues generated by the services provided from general fund. A lot of that would be things such as inspection fee revenues and so forth. We expect to have $10,052,968 in total expenses for the general fund, which leaves us a net income of that $8,899,000. And so that money right there, that amount would be funded by the city's intergovernmental revenues. Again, that's the monies coming from property tax, sales tax, liquor taxes, and so forth. So that will be allocated to us to make us whole from the budget office. So that kind of concludes the information and recommendations portion of our presentation. Should I stop? Do you have any questions? Anything that I can answer at the moment?
Yes, I have a particular question. Can you go back to the slide where it showed the combined proposed new monthly bill, I think?
Yeah.
Where it had water renewal and solid waste. Okay, monthly. Yeah, I was just double checking again because I keep looking at numbers from my house and I'm just trying to wrap my head around the bill that I get versus monthly. And so I keep messing up in my head. And so I wanted to make sure you did have it as monthly up there. Okay. It's not the average bill, it's the average monthly.
Average monthly.
Combined.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. That's really all I wanted to see that. Thanks.
So this meeting, unlike the past meetings where we have been information only, we are requesting a motion to recommend our proposed capital M&O budgets and rate recommendations for fiscal year 24 to be then forwarded and moved on to budget workshops and ultimately approval by the city council. So we have this proposed language for the motion that for your consideration.
And I just wanted to reiterate, the question I had was, so to summary, it was 9.9 for the water renewal, the average out of all those cases. And then it's 7.5 for at least the residential
Yes.
piece of the solid waste.
Or yeah, sorry, let me
5.
7.5 for water renewal,
Right.
but
Or,
I'm
oh, I'm sorry, for water renewal.
Mhm.
Okay, sorry. And then the solid waste was the 4.9. That was, okay.
for residential and for commercial trash,
Right.
but no increase for commercial temporary roll-offs or commercial recycling.
Hey, I'm just gonna interrupt really quick.
Okay.
Hi, Laura
Hello there.
McLean. I just want to say, I was walking out and saw you guys were in here, so just wanted to thank, I guess there's 2 commissioners. live.
Here,
Everybody
yeah,
else?
yeah, there's 2
I
online.
think I saw, did I see?
We have
Yeah,
Jim Moritz and Ellie Cross.
Great. I just wanted to say thank you.
Yeah,
for
you
your
bet.
service. Really appreciate it. Sorry to interrupt.
Thank you. We're about ready to vote on a increase.
Coverage of all the increases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have a good team.
Great team, great board. Appreciate it. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thanks. Commissioners, do you have any questions before we go forward with the approval or the motion for approval? Any more questions before we go there? Okay. All right, well, I move that we have someone come forward with the proposed motion.
Madam Chair, I would move to recommend the proposed fiscal year 2024 budget as presented to the mayor and city council, including 1, the budgets for the general geothermal solid waste, municipal irrigation, and water renewal funds as presented. And secondly, the rates as presented for the water renewal, solid waste, and geothermal funds. And the commission asked staff to forward these recommendations onto the mayor and city council for inclusion and their approval in the city's overall fiscal year 2024 budget.
Do we have someone to come forward with seconding the motion?
Madam Chair, I second.
Thank you. So now, any discussion on the motion? So now we will do a vote. All those in favor of the proposed motion, say aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Okay, well, we have approved the proposed motion, so thank you.
And thank you, Matt and Heather, for all your help and your work on this. I know a lot goes into it. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll just cover the last steps and basically, again, want to reiterate, even though we talked about a lot of projections and future forecasts and all that, we're only focusing on just the 2024 budget. And then as we work into the budget workshops with the city council in May and June, ultimately it will go into a budget packet for July and then ultimately for for approval in August of this year. And then the rates would take effect as of October 1st, 2023. Okay, so thank you very much. It's been a pleasure presenting this, and please let us know if you have other questions. And I think we will be working to provide you with the cost of service information that you'd requested. Okay, thank you.
I'm looking for See, the next agenda item is the updated Public Work Commission bylaws. And presenter is Colin Hickman.
Yeah, Madam Chair, this is a follow-up to our previous discussions on updating some components of the Public Works Commission, how we do our work, et cetera. So I will turn it over to Colin, and he's got a short presentation, a summary of the proposed changes.
Chair, commission members, nice to see you all this afternoon, evening. Appreciate your time as always. As Steve mentioned, just to recap where we've been at the last Public Works Commission meeting, I think today is a pretty exciting update. And just to recap a little bit, last time we had talked about really thinking through what we want commission to be, how we want it to function, what we want it to do. And I think from what we took away from commissioners, the feedback that we got was a real sense of wanting to move to more of a quarterly cadence, spending more time as a group together, focused less on the day-to-day oversight and more on the longer term strategic pieces, helping us shape policy and strategy for a lot of the big items and big important content areas in front of the department. So as part of the takeaway, what staff promised to do, and we're back in front of you here this evening, is start to think through the language that we would need to update to ensure that we're able to do that. So wanted to share a couple updates with you this evening, and then we'll get into the specific piece of motion at hand, which has to do with the bylaws. But once we started really digging into the language that we would need to update in order to move in the new direction with Public Works Commission, it's really in two parts. The one that we'll see here tonight is the Public Works bylaws, which are much, I would say, easier for the commission to update, just require a vote this evening with a motion. And then the second one is in city code. And so we'll work with the legal department to update that, but that's a longer process. Obviously, it would require city council readings and the like. But just to say that what you all will vote on here this evening, the moving of the cadence to quarterly, will set us up for the direction that we want to go. There's nothing in city code or in the bylaws that would prevent us from going the direction that you all expressed a desire to go. So we'll go through the bylaws here shortly, but one other update that I wanted to put out there is that staff have been working kind of in the background on the other piece that was discussed a lot at the last meeting, which was the desire for a more robust orientation for commissioners to be able to get an overview of the department, hear from staff, get to know one another, and also incorporating additional tours of facilities so that when things are discussed in commission meetings, you all have that frame of reference, have been to the sites. And so staff are working on that in the background. And what we're looking at roughly right now is early summer orientation. We'll get that on the books, and then theoretically starting that quarterly cadence in August. So we're looking to go pretty quickly. And one ask that we would have of you all is that we're gonna keep all of the existing standing meetings on your calendars, just because they're already on your calendars, and we may want to repurpose those for whether it's an orientation or tours. So just a request to please keep those on your calendar, even if they're, let's say, a work session that we'll no longer be having going forward. We would just ask to that you keep that time on your calendar. So we'll be back in touch with more dates, but again, hoping to move pretty quickly on these. And again, certainly from my perspective, I think from the department's perspective, really excited about the direction and the conversations that we've had so far, and going a different direction and providing you all with the content and receiving that strategic guidance and the more workshop focus group style, so we can be a lot more conversational with you all, receive a lot more feedback on an ongoing basis. We're really looking forward to that from the department perspective. So with that, I will share And just one thing, so in the packet that you all received was the updated bylaws that we reviewed, that we had legal review as well. And what you saw in there was primarily, some cleaning up of old language, but then the significant change was around meeting cadence, moving from monthly to quarterly. And one amendment for this evening that I did want to run you all through, and that will be part of the proposed motion. This is pretty minor, but we did want to bring it up because we caught it last minute. So apologies for that. But in Article 1, Meeting Section 2, the current language, which I have up here, it just basically says a special meeting may be called by the chairperson of the commission whenever the chairperson deems such meetings necessary, or when 4 or more commissioner members deem such a meeting necessary. The only tweak the only change that we're recommending here is that it says chairperson or secretary, which would be the director, which just gives staff the ability to also call a meeting. We've noticed that we've been doing that some in the past. And so we just wanted to clean up the language so that calling a special meeting could either come from the chairperson or from the director, which is in this case is the secretary. So that was the only other change in language that we proposed. And again, apologies for the last minute, but we did think while we were going through the updating of bylaws, we thought that would be an important adjustment as well. So happy to stop for any questions before I get to the motion, but hopefully it's relatively straightforward, but would certainly welcome any questions. Okay, hearing none. I put together this draft recommended motion for you all to consider. I move to adopt the recommended Public Works bylaws as proposed with one amendment to add the phrase "or secretary" into Article 1, Section 2.
Commissioners, would someone like to?
Madam Chair, I'm happy to do it. I move to adopt the recommended Public Works bylaws as proposed with one amendment to add the phrase quote "or secretary" unquote into Article 1, Section 2.
A second?
Madam Chair, I would second the motion.
Is there any discussion? Okay, we'll go ahead and take a vote. Those who are in favor of the recommended motion, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. All right. Motion has passed. Thank you.
Great. And Chair, Commission members, just wanted to wrap up with another thank you for you all's time. We're grateful for the feedback that we received and really excited about the new direction that we're going. And again, look for some additional information on when we can get that robust orientation and start to get some tours on your calendar. So thanks again for your time.
Thank you. There is one more item on the agenda, subcommittee reports. Public Works Commission Water Renewal Subcommittee had a meeting a couple weeks ago, maybe a little bit more than a couple weeks, April 17th. And Steve, we're going to give an update.
Thank you, Chair Ellis. Yeah, we met with Commissioner Gravatt was joined us for the Water Renewal Subcommittee meeting. And we spent the meeting talking about the advanced water treatment pilot out at the Micron facility. That facility is in place. It's up and running. I think we're still running clean water through. I know that we've transitioned over to the actual wastewater piece just yet. But we talked about the intent of the pilot, talked about the actual treatment processes that were part of the pilot. I think there's 5 key processes. And then did spend some time with Commissioner Gravatt talking about the public engagement part of it. That's such an important part of the advanced water treatment pilot, is to get information out to the public and also give them tours, let them come out and see the facility, kind of look, touch, and feel the technology. So he had a couple of recommendations that are in the meeting minutes that were really helpful as we start to roll out the advanced water treatment pilot.
So I'll have to ask Crispin about it because it sounds very, very interesting. Okay, we have gotten through our agenda items. Are there any new things that need to be addressed? Does anybody have any questions or things to recommend for the next meeting?
Madam Chair, I do have a
Yes.
question.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to get clear on something that Colin mentioned about keeping our calendars, keeping the monthly first Wednesday this time calendars held for the remainder of the year as we go through the implementation of some of the changes and keeping options open since they're already on our calendars. What I wasn't totally clear on when since I'm a relatively new member is the work sessions. Are there separate calendar work sessions that I'm not aware of, or at least not currently calendared for? Because I don't want to miss those if I should have those.
This is Kathy Schoenfeld, Chair Ellis and Commissioner Warrens, if I might. I was going to send an email out tomorrow with all of those dates.
Of course you were, Kathy. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So I'm really glad you brought that up, Commissioner Barnes. Right now, like in my calendar, I just have it for August and November. So I don't know if I'm missing any. I thought they usually were every month. So I don't know why I only have it for August and November for upcoming.
Chair, I'll
send
get you the updated info. Yeah.
Thank you, Kathy. Okay, seeing that we have, any other questions? Okay, well, we have finished our agenda, and so I think we need to take a vote to end the meeting. So all of those in favor of finishing the meeting and closing out, please say aye.
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 Hi.
Those opposed, same sign. All right. We are adjourned. Thank you.